What is up, crypto gang? Welcome back to another episode of Hack Crypto, where we hack everything our Web3 and cryptocurrency education. If you guys are brand new here, you aren't subscribed, be subscribed with that big button down there. It's free. You can unsubscribe if you don't like the content. Hit that notification bell for notifications whenever I publish a new video. And on this episode, I'm going to be going over the new news about the Bitcoin ETF, Exchange Traded Fund. Now, this is a really exciting development, and it's not new. For everybody that is new to this space, about 10 years ago, Gemini, the Winklevoss twins, applied for the first ever Bitcoin ETF. Now, what makes this different is basically BlackRock, the trillion-dollar asset management company, is putting together and put forward a spot ETF to be approved by the SEC. The big fundamental thing that you need to take away from a Bitcoin spot ETF is that it tracks the price accurately. So by tracking the price accurately as it stands on exchanges across the world, you are able to get exposure without actually owning any Bitcoin. Now, all of the crypto people, just like myself out there, kind of see this as blasphemy because part of the core value proposition of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin specifically is sovereignty, owning your keys, owning your asset, just like a bar of gold in a safe that is in your house. It is the same concept as owning your keys and having control over your asset. ETF doesn't actually have any form of self-custody for users. It is just giving investors and institutions exposure to that price. And that specific price is moving all the time, and people love that. And big players like your BlackRock coming in are a huge sign for a promising future on price action, but it is completely shifting away from the core value proposition of that self-sovereignty. There's a lot of people out there that are in both sides, both camps, that are arguing for that, people should be focusing on their private keys and storing their wealth. And there's the other people that are sort of coming out of the woodwork that were claiming previously they were here for the tech, but now they just care about the price and just turning it into fiat and doing whatever they want with it. So there's a lot of different conversations going on right now, but what you really need to understand is that this gives exposure to people who don't have time to manage ledger wallets or Trezor wallets, hardware, offline, cold storage. They're not interested in that. They're interested in moving capital around for their investors or for themselves to make a return and dump accordingly. So it is a unique way of bringing a lot more people in to the cryptocurrency space. Some would argue that it's not technically, and some would argue that it is. So I think there's a lot of really cool arguments on both sides. So what I wanted to do in this video is kind of just unpack a high level as to what the Bitcoin ETF means. If you guys are brand new to the channel or to the space as a whole, welcome. The recent development that took place this week was XRP, or Ripple, that's been around forever, won a lawsuit against the SEC. They were sued a couple of years ago. It's been dragging on forever. People always have been speculating over the last year or two about what was going to go on with Ripple. But ultimately, it was released that it is not a security. They won against the SEC, and it came out, huge news. XRP pumped like 60% in the day. People were really excited because it was a landmark case and is a landmark case for the entire space. Huge news. And right before that was the Bitcoin ETF news around BlackRock and some of these other big institutions releasing their applications to the SEC to begin to allow people to get access. So I think there's so many bullish pieces of news coming out right now. But at the same time, Crunchbase put out a report, I got it today, that said that over 78% pullback on funding in crypto projects last quarter, Q2 of 2023. So a pullback of 78% means that people are not able to raise funds in the crypto space if they are building something. That's a problem, and that is just bear market territory, par for the course. And the goal is to survive. If you're building in the Web3 space, you just need to survive. The next run will be crazy because you have all these institutions that will gain exposure through these spot ETFs from the biggest asset managers in the world. A lot of people out there like ARK Invest with Kathy Woods and a lot of these really bullish permabull kind of Bitcoin people are saying $1 million a Bitcoin, things like that, just crazy numbers. And you can kind of see the narrative building up. Now, I follow a lot of different people on YouTube, but Bob Lucas is one of my favorites. He just keeps a level head. He has been for many years, and you could see the entire story arc of him starting his Bitcoin journey all the way up to, I think it's 100 Bitcoin that he has now. And it was only a couple trades that he did, which is really cool. It's fun to watch. Look him up on YouTube if you're brand new to the Bitcoin space, and definitely follow him. Part of the catch to what happened with this spot ETF going in front of the SEC was the SEC is currently in a lawsuit with Coinbase. And the kind of crazy situation that's unfolding now is all of the biggest spot ETFs, even BlackRock, are partnering with Coinbase to custody the assets that they're using for the spot ETF. So what you have is the SEC in a fight with Coinbase, all of these applications flooding into the SEC to have a spot ETF approved that are backed and secured by a partnership with the company they're currently suing. So it is quite a wild situation and a huge pinch that the SEC has found themselves in. I would not want to be in the SEC right now when you have companies like BlackRock that are trillions and trillions of dollars of assets coming in with huge political power. I mean, you're dealing with the biggest and most powerful human beings on earth. They are coming in saying, we're going to get this, you're going to approve it. If you don't, things are going to go south. That type of pressure coming from these huge institutions that just want to give their clients access to something like Bitcoin, if they get said no to, then there's going to be a big problem for the SEC. And I think that they are pushed into a weird corner that they've put themselves in because they're picking a fight, can't choose who they're going to allow, who they're not going to allow. And it's just a real mess that is only inevitably going to turn out with a Bitcoin ETF getting approved. Whether it's a week from now or a year from now, it's going to happen when you have this level of asset managers coming in that want exposure for their clients to something like this. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And I wouldn't want to be, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the SEC just to hear what's going on right now, just because of the kind of chaotic triangle that they're stuck in between Coinbase and all of these incredibly large institutions trying to get approved while partnering with them. So with a spot ETF, the Bitcoin has to be held directly. And that is where the partnership with Coinbase comes in for all of these big institutions that want the spot ETF for their clients. And that pumped the price of coin or Coinbase, because the moment that it got announced that Coinbase was the one that was holding that Bitcoin for them to have that spot ETF tracking the price and being, the custodian of that asset, it was bonkers. I mean, everybody was talking about it. It was just all over the place. And bravo to Coinbase for getting these people, these institutions in. So many exchanges have claimed it over the years, but Brian Armstrong and the Coinbase team have truly pulled it off with this. I mean, this is a huge movement forward for the space. So to recap, a spot ETF gives people exposure to Bitcoin without having to actively manage the asset. Like if I buy gold on Fidelity, I'm not actually holding or managing my gold. I'm getting exposure to gold for my investment portfolio on that website. It is numbers on a screen, and I have, that exposure done. Don't have to deal with it. Don't have to actively manage it. I could sell it tomorrow, whatever. Same concept for this Bitcoin ETF. It gives immense exposure to institutions that don't want to actively manage private keys or, hold it offline and so on. So it is a mixed bag with the community right now. People don't want that to happen. People want that to happen because it's more exposure for their price, and they get some upward mobility on their price. And then you have the people that are saying, I don't want that, because it completely moves away from the whole sovereignty aspect and the whole mission of having individuals owning and controlling their wealth. But I would argue that you could strike a balance between both of these worlds. The people that want to hold on to their physical gold or their digital gold at home are totally able to do that. They can do it whenever they want. They can hold however much they want. Totally good. And then on the other side, all of the institutions and the people who are non-technical and don't want to deal with private keys or actively managing their assets, they could buy gold on BlackRock or through BlackRock. They could buy gold on Fidelity through Fidelity. They could basically buy Bitcoin on all of these through their spot ETF, and they don't have to actively manage it. Both of these worlds can exist. They can exist together symbiotically is what I believe, and it's only a matter of time before all the institutions give exposure to their customers. Fidelity was one of the first movers, I believe, and they were doing it for mainly just big institutions and things like that. But now with BlackRock, it is going to be a big shift and the driver of the next bull run. We're already in that trend, as I mentioned before with Bob Lucas's channel. You should check that out. That's it for this video. I hope you guys like it. Definitely check out all the news about the Bitcoin Spot ETF. Very exciting to see that development and just the triangle of chaos going on between BlackRock, Coinbase, and the SEC right now is just nuts to see, and huge news for everybody in the space. So if you're here, you're early, and I will see you on the next episode of Hack Crypto.